Boris Johnson warned the public to be optimistic but patient today as he cautioned against cutting any corners when it comes to lifting the lockdown.
The Prime Minister struck a blunt tone tonight as he warned that he wanted the current shutdown to be the last while admitting he could not guarantee that it would be.
Mr. Johnson is planning to reveal the guts of his roadmap out of lockdown in a week's time, but is facing heavy pressure from politicians and industry leaders to raise restrictions as soon as possible.
They see last night's announcement that the 15 million vaccinations target being hit on time as a sign that lockdown can be totally lifted by May, with key sectors of the economy back on their feet much sooner.
Coupled with that, Britain today recorded just 9,765 coronavirus cases in the smallest daily rise since October, with 230 lab-confirmed deaths. Both daily tolls were down by 30% on last Monday's 14,104 infections and 333 fatalities.
But what may be seen as a swipe at fidgeting Tory backbenchers of the COVID recovery group, CRG, he said we don't today have all the hard facts that we need and urged caution with freedom at last within sight.
The PM also urged people to take reports on the dates and order of the easing of lockdown restrictions with a pinch of salt.
Fronting a Downing Street press conference tonight, he said, "This moment is a huge step forward, but it's only a first step. And while it shows what the country can do, we must be both optimistic but also patient.
And next week, I will be setting out a roadmap saying as much as we possibly can about the route to normality, even though some things are very uncertain.
Because we want this lockdown to be the last. And we want progress to be cautious but also irreversible." In other coronavirus developments today,
Nicola Sturgeon today threatened to close the England-Scotland border unless Boris Johnson adopts her stricter hotel quarantine rules.
All international arrivals in Scotland have to self-isolate for 10 days in a government-approved quarantine hotel.
But in England the requirement only applies to travellers arriving from 33 red list countries which have recorded significant outbreaks of coronavirus variants.
The Scottish government is concerned that people could fly into England before then heading to Scotland, avoiding the tougher hotel quarantine rules north of the border. As a result, Ms. Sturgeon is urging Mr. Johnson to adopt the same measures as Scotland, or at the very least to work with Holyrood to put in place a system to stop people circumventing the restrictions.
However, she said this afternoon she would be willing to take the nuclear option of closing the border between Scotland and England should the two sides fail to reach an agreement. Such an approach would likely involve the Scottish government introducing some form of border checks in a bid to keep track of international arrivals coming from England.
It is unclear how such a system of checks could work, but any proposals would be likely to pose significant logistical and political challenges for Ms. Sturgeon.